Hello, everybody. Welcome to Group on the World here in the best news, reviews, interviews, and courses of horror in Mexico. That's right. And here we are with an special guest, Detalle. He has been nominated for Best Short Film right now, with the name of Daffy in Wacky Land, which is just looks awesome as hell. But man, here we have Max Winston. Hello, Max.
Hello.
And for those who don't know, this Max started a lot in the university, in the animation with a lot of short films. But the thing is that he's really famous for one short film that it is brutal, it is grotesque, it is awesome, and it is called I Live in the Woods. So if you haven't watched that short film, go on YouTube, watch it, and that short film will blow up your brain. So you need to watch it right now. But yeah, man, I am really excited for this interview because it is like the fusion of everything that I love: the cartoonish stuff, the gore, the grotesque, and the bizarre. So the first question in this interview that I have it will be first of all in your style, because when I watch your short films and everything that you have done, the creative process, I mean, it's surreal. It's surreal as hell. So I want to know what happens in your brain when you start to imagine the stuff that you want to create. What is your creative process, man?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much I try to make things that I haven't seen before, you know. That's my goal at least. Like if I see that something has been done, I usually decide to do something that's different than that. You know, not to say everything I do is just so original that it's unlike anything else, but I that's at least my goal is like, well, I start thinking like, well, what haven't I really seen before and how can I bring that into fruition, you know, and make bring that into the world because I don't want to just copy what I see. Besides having influence, of course, we all have our influences, but I try to like take my influences and make something new from them. Yeah.
Just love it. Yeah, I mean, and I think that yeah, you got those influences, which I could think about a lot. But I mean, you got your own style. So I mean, that's awesome. I think that's the dream of every artist in the world to have their footprint and style in everything that they make. So it is awesome. And well, your stuff that you create, it has some particularly things in common. So those things are like there are creatures, there are monsters, it is bizarre. You got this I live in the woods stuff that it is like with gore, with blood, gore a little bit, and also
Yeah.
the Fun Time Fantasies. I think it's the name, Fun Time Fantasies. I love it with
Mhm.
those goblins, those strange goblins. I love it.
Yeah.
That have like a relation in horror, like this monster creature stuff. How do you think the horror has a relation with your style? How do you think this has been like evolving in your style also? Because I think that you got a lot of maybe it is no dark. It has a lot of colors, but there is horror. So I would love to know what is that relation.
Yeah, like I mean, I've loved horror films for a long time. I actually didn't like them when I was a kid because they just I don't know, I was very sensitive to like visuals and things would really scare me even when I was like 8 maybe 7 or 8. My friends were watching Beetlejuice at a sleepover and I had to like leave the room like it was just too freaky for me. But like as a teenager I got really into horror films and yeah, then I would later go to Cal Arts for animation and after making a couple animated films there, I started thinking like, yeah, like what do I really want to see? And I realized, you know, I haven't at that point before I made I Live in the Woods, I hadn't made something like that was just so, you know, balls to the wall, insane, and with the gore and just like no. And I realized, yeah, I really just want to make something that's as crazy as the films that have inspired me. Like Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite films. Frankenhooker is another big one for me. So I was like, I want to make something like that. And like, why haven't I yet? Because maybe I haven't because I was afraid that it may make people uncomfortable or upset them or something. And so I was just like, I want to make something that has no concern about really how if anyone's going to like it or not. I just wanted to make exactly what I wanted to see, and take influences from some of my favorite things that I hadn't really tapped into yet. And I haven't really made something quite, I guess, as just, well, I Live in the Woods is not like all my other work is like that film in terms of gore and stuff, but I will do something like that again. But even then, besides that, in my future work I did after that and have done whatever since then, there's been times where it's like, oh, let's go dark with this. Like, yeah, the Fontaine Fantasies Goblin short. Yeah, that was like, the person Zach, who owns Fontaine and contacted me to do that. Him and their art director, designer, Steve Smith, like they wanted me to go all out. They were like, oh yeah, we love Army of Darkness and Sam Raimi stuff, let's do something that has similar vibe. So I was like, okay, cool. So but even then, I think like even when I don't have like horror elements in my shorts, it's still like I've still come at them with a similar spirit, I think, where I still think I love horror because there's so much freedom within it. And I think that like horror films take more chances than most other genres. Like that's the one genre you could always go to find new ideas and something just creative that will like blow your mind. And so I try to like take elements of that into the other things I do, even like things for little kids. It's like which I've done stuff where it's like, this is for kids to watch, but I still like take that element of always trying to find some new creative thing and new idea, that is also not concerned with being too extreme or going too far or being too cartoony even or whatever. I
I
like to go to
mean,
extremes.
yeah. Yeah, is that it is like the balance, Like I
Yeah.
think you are like your style, your work. I like to make analogies with food, so I think that your work are like popcorns, but you don't want those popcorns to only have salt and that's it. No,
Yeah.
so you want to put it butter, chocolate,
Yeah.
caramel, I don't know, like cheddar. You want a lot of stuff and you want to mix it. You want to mix those popcorns and you put M&Ms and
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, cotton candy, I don't know. But the
Yeah.
thing is
Yeah.
that there are not just popcorns. I think like there are many people that can make the same stuff and you don't want that. You always want to make this mix about the things that you love. I mean, it is not that it is interesting because I have watched also your work in Uncle Grandpa. I think that's the name, Uncle Grandpa, and it is like, yeah, maybe this will be for kids, but I don't know. It has the elements of Max Winston with the bizarre, and
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
that's incredible. Yeah,
That's
uh,
cool. Yeah, that's like, I mean, the stuff I remember the most from when I was a kid was the stuff that was the kind of the craziest, like Ren and Stimpy. I was a huge Ren and Stimpy fan, and it's like that's one of the weirdest cartoons to ever be on TV. But that was the kind of stuff that like really excited me because it was so different and had such a strong voice. There were other things too. I mean, like when I was a teenager, like Eon Flux on MTV and all the liquid television stuff on MTV was all like a huge inspiration because you were seeing people take all these chances and try different approaches. So yeah, it's like now when I make stuff, even for kids, it's like you still can go pretty far with stuff for kids. Kids like to see stuff that's a little crazy and whacked out or whatever. At least I
yeah.
did. So I figure if I did, other kids probably do too. And that was like on the Uncle Grandpa short, yeah, which it's like we set it up so, oh, they go inside his imagination. So that was just like opening the door to like go nuts. That's partly why we did that, because Pete Browngardt, who created Uncle Grandpa, he wanted me to just be able to go nuts and have total freedom to, not be held back. And the only rules were no sex and no gore. So besides that, it was
Yeah,
just like a free for all. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Also, I think it is interesting because in your work, I watched that you said in another interview that you make like experimental animation, like you were in that area when you were studying, and there was the stop motion. But for me, it's really interesting that you got like this horror spirit in the thing that the horror, it is famous for practical effects, for making stuff, trying to make experiments, trying to trying to make you uncomfortable or making you excited, but with practical stuff. Maybe it will be a little bit more hardworking nowadays than something digital in some stuff, because you got to put more creativity in mind in how I will do it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think this horror spirit of practical effects has a relation also that you make this practical stop motion stuff? And oh my God, man, I mean, when I watch the stuff that how you are creating these short films and the stuff that you make in Instagram, it is like, wow, this is just like an art. It is an art and a practical art. So I don't know. What do you think
Yeah.
about that relation?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely a direct connection between practical effects and stop motion, because in the 80s they were oftentimes mixed together and stuff a lot. And I mean, now we look at that as like, wow, this looks cool. It usually looks really cool still and really great. Sometimes it doesn't, but the spirit's always there. And I do prefer that kind of look more. I do feel like it holds up over time more. But they did it at the time because that was the way to do it. Now there's all these other ways to do it. Um, and for me, that's one of the appealing things about stop motion to me, is that when you watch it, you're watching like real things do real things, and you sense that when you're watching it. It's like, that's what it just appeals to me about it. Like, wow, I'm watching something that someone like created in front of themselves, and now it's being like played in front of me. Like, there's just I like having that connection to like someone else's reality, and that's the same with like practical effects and stuff. There's just a different feel when you see it and you're like, wow, that actually happened at some point in time. It kind of like gives you a connection to that, where there's a lot of incredible computer effects out there. You can't deny that, but it just has a different feel where it's like, oh, a lot of artistry goes into that too, I will say. I'm not trying to say it doesn't, but you watch it, it's like, and in your mind, you're like, I don't know, this was created at some point in some computer at some time. I don't know. It's like you don't have this connection where like, wow, this was kind of an event, like practical effects. If you like in Scanners or something, they blow up the guy's head. You're like,
Yeah.
whoa, like they did that and people were there doing that and they captured this moment, and now it's like forever part of cinema. There's kind of a magical quality in how you connect to these practical effects. And I feel like because it was something that was done like in reality in time, and now we're like accessing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and I mean that's wonderful. I mean that's the wonderful thing about practical effects, because yes, it has a lot of relation in this thing that you are creating it, and also you are like, maybe you are watching it in one, I don't know, you are watching like what I'm saying, the can that you are drinking right now. You are watching
Yeah.
this can and you are saying like, what the fuck could I make with this can? And you're
Yeah.
like searching, searching, searching. And when you never imagine this could be a character and with eyes and stuff, and he's moving and doing stuff, and that's incredible. I think that's
Yeah.
magic, man. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think
Also,
like I
uh-huh.
think also like just practical effects hold up over time much better than computer effects. Like, even if you can tell, oh, that practical effect was not, a real person's throat being slit or something horrible like that. I don't know. It's like, oh, it still looked good. Whereas computer effects, they just don't age well. Like even the other day I watched Cabin in the Woods for the first time probably in 10 years, which is, I love the film. I mean, it's great. It's really, that's like a one of the, not one of the few, but that's just like a modern horror film that I thought was pretty awesome, is it has like this high concept that's really crazy. You don't know where it's going, and there's cool creative ideas all throughout it. But I was sort of surprised, like, oh, some of the like computer animation doesn't quite hold up. When I first saw it, I didn't really question any of that. And that's not even like that old of a film, and it didn't really take me out of it because I think it's a great film, even with slightly aged computer effects. But I don't know, all the practical effects in the film still look amazing. So just an example, I guess.
Yeah, that happens to me with King Kong. It is interesting. With King Kong happens to me that the first one, the original, for me it looks amazing. For me it is like wow. When I was a kid, I was like this fucking monkey was real,
Yeah.
and they were like no, this was not real. But then I watched the Peter Jackson, the digital one, and when I watched it, it was like wow, this is awesome. No, but the
Yeah.
thing is that right now I watch it and yeah, the digital starts to, I don't know, you start to see like this doesn't look as cool as it look, but with practical effects, that's the magic. You mentioned earlier Frankenhooker with it
Mhm.
of Frankenluther. So that guy with basket case, he start like this movie in stop motion with the basket and the monster and everything,
Yeah,
and then
that's one of
in
my favorite scenes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And brain damage also he does it with this like peculiar monster. So I don't know. And Hellraiser, man. Hellraiser has stop
Yeah.
motion. And man, this looks horrible as hell. So for me, it is like, wow, the magic still goes on, goes on. And I think
Yeah.
that's something with your work, that the magic, it is like it comes alive. It is something magical. The this relation of practical stuff and stop motion. Um,
Yeah.
the other question that I have, it is like passing to another world. Not well, it has some stuff that maybe will be bizarre, but it is another world. We will talk, yeah, about Daffy the Duck, yeah, about your new short film, because man, I love Daffy the Duck. I love Looney Tunes. I think it's wonderful that they are giving a chance in with Daffy the Dog character, because I think it is coming a future animated movie also. So it is cool.
Yeah.
What was first of all? How was it when they tell you? I don't know what was the story. I mean, if you want to tell it, it will be awesome. But how
Yeah.
was it when they tell you, "Hey, we need someone that direct this short film, and it is about Daffy the dog, the character." And I mean,
Yeah.
when you were a kid, let's imagine, okay? You come right now at your age and you watch Max Winston of 10 years old, and you tell
Yeah.
him, "Hey man, you will be you will be making the short film about Daffy the dog." That's right.
Yeah.
That dog, that silly dog. What do
Yeah.
you think that kid will say?
No, I would have no concept of what they were even talking about. I mean, not any I just wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, because yeah, when I was a kid, I loved Looney Tunes growing up. I still do. I still watch them pretty often. But yeah, growing up, I really loved Looney Tunes a lot. So like, yeah, if someone was like, "You're gonna make your own Looney Tunes one day," I'd be like, I didn't even know I could do animation at that time. I thought that like that's what these other people do that just somehow know how to do that. And even like at some point, and finally during high school, I was like, I guess I could try to do that. But I didn't know, even though my parents were both artists, and my dad would say like we'd be watching cartoons and he'd say, "Oh, somebody drew that," and I was like, "Okay, I guess that's like the person that draws that." Like I didn't think, "Oh, I could do that." Um, but yeah, so it's totally like it's still mind blowing that I got to make my own Looney Tunes short, and it's an official Warner Brothers Looney Tunes short that I like wrote and directed and designed, and I mean I did most of stuff on it. I got a little bit of help with fabrication for like the Daffy beaks. My friend Brent Johnson like 3D sculpted and printed all of the Daffy beaks. And I got a little other help with like compositing and stuff. Of course, I didn't do the music or sound. That was the people that do the amazing music and sound on the other Looney Tunes shorts they've made. But yeah, it was totally a crazy honor to like be part of this lineage. It's like really nuts to me. Yeah, and that was like so Pete Browngardt, who I mentioned before, who created Uncle Grandpa, he was the showrunner, as they say, for these new Looney Tunes shorts they were making. So
Awesome.
once he got that job and he told me, "Oh, I'm going to be heading up all these Looney Tunes shorts," I was just like thinking, "That's cool," because he's the one that got me to make the stop motion Uncle Grandpa, and the one that said we're just going to let Max do whatever he wants, And he's my friend, and he's just an awesome dude. So I was just thinking, I hope that Pete asks me to like do a stop motion Looney Tunes short, but I didn't want to like bug him about it. But the next time I talked to him, he was like, "Oh, one of the first things I thought it was, I want to get Max to do a stop motion short." So I was like, "Yes." So it
Yes.
took a while from that point to like when we finally started it and everything. But yeah, it's crazy to me that I've now been a part of the official like Looney Tunes legacy. Yeah,
Awesome. No, I mean, I think it is a dream come true. I think
it
it
is. It
is.
totally is. Yeah. Um,
And
and I hope it can be out there soon so everyone can watch it.
yeah, we
It's
need,
unreleased so far, but yeah.
yeah, and the images and everything that has been released, it looks awesome. For me, it is incredible because this looks like the year of Daffy. I hope it is the year of Coyote, but that's another subject to talk earlier. But the
Yeah.
thing is that, well, it is awesome. But I think, do you think like to have Daffy the Duck as the short film? I think it is awesome because he's like bizarre. The Daffy the Duck, the original Daffy Duck before Mel Blanc, it is like bizarre, like whoo,
Yeah, the early Daffy is
yes,
like really the most cartoony, crazy version of Daffy. Um, yeah, which is I love that early Daffy. Yeah, where he's just kind of like insane. Um,
yeah,
I kind of wanted to like it was Pete's suggestion and Alex, I guess co-showrunner there, Alex Kerwan, and creative director, I believe his official title was. But they kind of suggested Daffy Duck, and I was like, okay, one of my favorite characters. All right. And I think we were picturing that I would do like, yeah, that sort of really crazy Daffy, because I love doing cartoony stop motion and it just seemed to make sense. But then we added the dodo bird to the story, who's a little bit more of an obscure character. But he was in Tiny Toons, so which was very popular. So a lot of
yeah.
people know him from that. But he was in other Warner Brothers shorts earlier in the 40s and 30s and stuff. But so and he's like the crazy cartoony bird. So I was like, wait, as I was coming up with the story, I was like, wait a minute, that's weird. We can't just have two of like the craziest cartoony birds. Just you need contrast between characters. If you have two main characters in a film, and they're kind of the same, it's not, you can't do much with it. You need them to be able to play off each other with their differences and stuff. So I kind of decided, okay, we'll keep the dodo super whacked out like he is, and then I'll have the super whacked out Daffy moments. But I did go with like a little bit later Daffy, where he gets like more like self-indignant, and he's just very selfish and thinks everyone's out to get him and stuff. So I kind of went with like that Daffy, but gave him like these super cartoon moments. Yeah.
It is awesome. I mean, and yeah, that relation, you need a contrast, as you say. Yeah, that's right. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that's true. And wow, I mean, when I see that Dodo was, I was really excited because yeah, since Tiny Toons I haven't watched it, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think if I don't know if earlier in another year they would have told me like, hey, Max Winston will make something of Looney Tunes, I will thought like they will give him, I don't know, Taz maybe, because
Oh yeah.
it
Yeah.
is just as bizarre as you. But man, Daffy the Duck is just like wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. I love Daffy. I mean, he's like one of the best cartoon characters ever. So it was fun to like get to kind of interpret him in my own way and stuff. Taz, I thought about Taz for a bit. Like that could have been cool. I loved Taz when I was a kid because he's kind of a character for kids. I feel like he's just crazy and I
Yeah.
don't know. There's not like a lot of depth to him, but like he's just cool because he's destructive and chaotic.
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean, I think also it will be chaotic and bizarre and funny. It will be like the word for your work. So it
Yeah,
will be
yeah.
awesome.
I first I considered trying to do like a Wile E. Coyote sort of short. Because when I was a kid, that
Yeah.
was he was my favorite character. Because I always liked to sort of build things when I was a kid, or try to build things, and like that's basically what he did. So I always loved seeing like all his inventions and stuff like that. And I was thinking that could be cool to do that in stop motion. You could do some pretty crazy stuff. But ultimately, I think that like Pete and Alex sort of they were like, well, we've done a lot of Miley Cody shorts already, and ultimately, I didn't want to just like do a stop motion version of like a Wile E. Coyote short. And I more like wanted to like create a like my own Looney Tunes, like my own short in the Looney Tunes world or whatever. So it would have been harder to come up with something new in that situation. I think it would have been more like, let's recreate this scene or this setting in stop motion, and it gets a little less interesting to me at that point, as opposed to like, let's do something new within this world. Yeah.
No, I mean every character that they gave you, it will be like, let's enter this to the world of Max Winston. It will not be the same as
Yeah.
what you are usually used to. So
Yeah,
I
that's true.
mean, it will be awesome. I mean, it surely will be awesome to if you have made a coyote or I don't know. I
Yeah.
also I also imagine this the one I think is I don't know the name is Ralph, the one that coyote eat it with the lambs. That's the other coyote with the red nose.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I think his name's Ralph. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a funny setup there. Yeah. Where they're stealing the sheep or whatever.
Yeah, it will be awesome.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, I know it would have been fun to do any Looney Tunes character really. But yeah, Daffy was probably like the best choice. Those guys made a lot of good choices with these new Looney Tunes shorts.
love it. I love that the new shorts of the Looney Tunes. I love it. I think they
Oh,
are
cool. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
One of the last questions, it will be like, if if they could give you, I don't know, no, it will be three last questions. The first one, if they give you like any character from any company, they could tell you could have any character for any project or stuff of short film or full-length movie. Which character that exists will you love to use to do a story? Which one?
Yeah. That is interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to sort of say just off the top of my head because there's probably a lot, but like the first that came to mind was probably Gumby. Like I would love to do something with Gumby. Um,
Awesome.
Mostly because, well, Gumby is some of my favorite animation ever. It just is so whacked out and wild. And I like how I love how the Gumby has limitless possibilities. That's like something that really intrigues me.
Yeah.
Um, and so that could be a thing, but also I one of my favorite films also is the Wizard of Oz. Actually, I feel like it could be fun to do like a new sort of story with some of those characters. Um, yeah, I'm a big Wizard of Oz fan, so that's another one that comes to mind. But yeah, there's a lot. But those are a couple I'd want to do. I also would really like to do a Simpsons couch gag thing. I think that would be awesome. That's like sort of a dream of mine. I mean, I also have, my own characters, my own stories and stuff I'd like to get made. But when we're talking about like interpreting other characters, I'd love to do a Simpsons couch gag. That would be awesome.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. In fact, the second question it is like, do you have like I don't know like a script in mind, or do you got a script, a future like project that you will love in a future in a full length movie? You know, like 1 hour 20
Yeah,
minutes.
right. Yeah, I mean that is a dream of mine is to make a feature film. I'm not like close to doing that in terms of like there's no talks of doing that at this point with anybody, but there could be some days. Sometimes it takes a while to get like to that point. And I have ideas of my own and concepts. Some are more developed than others. But I haven't yet written like a full-on script for a entire feature, but I do have like starting scripts for a few ideas and just like trying to figure out what to pursue and when and how. But yeah, I would love to make a feature. Some people have said, people I know that are further along in their career than me have said, oh, maybe find something like a pre-existing property and say, that has some kind of fan base, I guess, and then try to pitch that as like, I want to make this into a movie or something. Like some people have said to do that as your first kind of venture into feature because it's potentially more likely to get made because it already has this proven like track record or whatever. So then you say, I want to do the Max Winston version of this. It's like easier for executives to wrap their head around as opposed to like, I have this idea you've never seen before, which should be totally fine. But I try when someone says that kind of thing, I try to take it to when it's someone I trust, I try to take it to heart and consider that that could be a good approach to actually getting something made.
Yeah, I mean, I am really excited to see something that you
Yeah.
make. Yeah, it will be awesome. I imagine something of your creations because you got your own characters and your own creations and your own worlds. But
Yeah.
also, I imagine, I don't know, like a Woody Woodpecker movie of Max Winston and stuff like that. It is
That'd be
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
So I imagine a lot of stuff combined, but yeah, I think more short films, more projects about Max Winston. It is awesome. We will love to have more of everything. So that's it. That's incredible. And finally, this is the last question.
Okay.
So as you know, the well, as I told you, this is group Underworld, and in Spanish it's called Grupo Inframundo. And the thing is that we got a segment called The Artist from Underworld. And the thing is that right now this interview is for that segment. So the thing is that the purpose of artists from underworld it is to inspire more people in creating this flame of inspiration of making their dreams or nightmares come true in the artist stuff, but more in the horror monsters, creatures stuff that you can live off it. So right now, there are a lot of artists, but they need more gasoline in this fire so they
Yeah.
can start creating, making stuff, and believing in their dreams and creating, I don't know, like stop motion or cartoons, So it will be awesome to hear what advice could you give to those new artists from the underworld that want to create stop motion, that want to create their own characters, want to make stories with their beloved characters. What will be that advice that you will give to those artists?
Yeah, I mean, just I would say just, you know, just if you like, I think anyone you just mentioned or are referring to probably likes to draw, I would assume. That's where a lot of my ideas start. I just doodle, I just draw. I don't really worry about what I'm drawing. I just try to like get drawings out of me. And before I know it, it's like becoming something. And sometimes it's not, and that's okay. But sometimes I'll notice, oh, I've been drawing this kind of thing a lot. Oh, maybe I'll make a character that's sort of like that. So I would say just like, really try to look inside yourself and think like, well, how do I see the world? Like, what makes my brain tick, and what's interesting and funny to me, or scary or whatever, and then try to realize those things and take influence. I try to watch as many crazy movies and stuff as I can. And I get very inspired that way. But like I said, then I say, well, okay, instead of just saying, I want to do that, I want to just copy that. I think like, well, what would my kind of version of this be? And I'm always kind of like trying to look inside of myself and bring the ideas out of me. That's the hardest part, is like we all have these ideas inside of us and you just have to get them out. And to do that, I would say don't treat everything as so precious, I guess, where it's like I say, when I go to draw, I'm not like, this has to be a good drawing. I literally just like start drawing shapes and see what happens. Because I'm trying to like excise these ideas out of me. Then once they're finally out of me, I can look at them and see like what to pursue. So that's one thing I would say, is just like try to get the ideas out and don't be so precious with them. You may have your ultimate dream project, but maybe you do a bunch of other projects before that one. Because like some people, they have this big idea and they're like, once I can finally do the big idea, it'll all happen. But that idea may be too big to just go out and do right now. You may have to work up to it. That's like Robert Rodriguez, the director, it said something like you have to make 100 films before you can make a good one, which I think is like a bit of an exaggeration. Although I think he did do that because he was like crazy about making films back then. But like I always remember that. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. It's like you just have to get them out of you, and you'll learn so much while you do that. That then by the time you're ready to make your ultimate master idea, you'll have learned so much and gained so many new talents and stuff that will then just help you realize that even more. Yeah, and I would also say just like don't worry about what anyone's going to think about anything you create. You don't want to be like bullying a person with your art or something like there are limits, I'd say, but like, don't be concerned like, oh, if I do this, someone will think this, because you never know what anyone's going to think about anything. All you can do is create what you want to see. And I really think if you do that, like there will be other people out there that pick up on it, and people can sense that when someone's doing that, as opposed to making something with all these preconceived notions about what people might want to see. That's when something is bullshit, and we all usually can sense that. We're like, what is this? This just seems like they fucking did this, because it's like, it feels very disingenuous. So I would say just create what you want to see, and don't be concerned about what people may think about it. You just have to get these ideas out of you and see where it goes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, those are precious words and incredible advice. I mean, well, a lot of advices there.
Yeah, I
But
guess I
no, it's
I went off.
incredible. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, there's a
everybody,
there's a quote here.
ah,
Wait, where's this thing? Oh yeah, I have this thing.
awesome.
This is something I keep around. I made this little thing. I mean, it's backwards, but it says the chief enemy of
Amen.
creativity is good taste, which is a Pablo Picasso quote. And I made this a long time ago. And I actually, when I was making I Live in the Woods, I made this because I found that quote and I was like, I need to remember that, because like, you know, good taste is bullshit basically, because it's subjective.
That's right.
Everyone has a different understanding of what is good taste or what is bad taste. There is, I don't think there's good taste or bad taste. There's just taste, and it's different for every person. So this is something I've kept around just to remember. Like when I'm like, I don't know, should I go there? Should I do that? Like in the Goblin short, like, should I have them like what I mean, the crazy stuff happened in that. Like, oh yeah, should he whatever piss on the pile of shit that then turns into the cards or whatever? It's like, oh yeah, of course he should, because that's funny and it's crazy and it's like people won't see it coming. But you could easily say that's bad taste, but in the end it doesn't matter because it's funny.
Awesome. Yeah. I need that. I need that text on a tattoo or something like that, because
It's
I
good to
need to
keep in mind.
remember. I need to remember it also.
Yeah.
It is awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Matt Winston, for this interview. I think it was awesome. It is a dream, this interview. Thank you for those advices. I hope we can see earlier in a moment your short film, Duff in the Wacky Land, which we are really excited to watch it, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it will be a
sometime
great
this
content.
year. I don't know when or where it will be out, but I think sometime this year it will be available at least. So yeah, I hope you can see it sooner than later as well.
Yeah, we are really
Yeah, thanks
excited.
for having me on. Thanks for reaching out. It's been fun talking.
Thank you very much. No, but well, we will see that Daffy short film, and maybe we will send you a message so we can talk more about it. But
Sure, yeah.
it is awesome. Well, everyone that's watching this, go watch the work of Max. It is awesome. You need to watch it. It is awesome as hell. And when Daffy comes, go and watch it. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you for watching Group Underworld, and let's remember to expect more stuff, more Daffy stuff, more bizarre stuff, and more nightmares come true. Bye bye.